So let's see, who never got to pray for us? Noptola, why don't you pray for us in Khmer, okay?
Yes. Côอาทานมั้ยញ៉ាំ ព្រះម្ចាស់ទូលគុំអរពីគុណព្រះអង្គសម្រាប់ថ្ងៃនេះដែលយើងខ្ញុំបានជួបគ្នាម្ដងទៀតជាមួយនឹងលោកគ្រូ Robert O ហើយនឹងជាមួយនឹងលោកគ្រូ រចនាដែលគាត់នឹងមកដើម្បីនឹងចែកចាយនៅការបង្រៀនដល់យើងខ្ញុំសូមព្រះអង្គបានប្រទាននៅប្រាជ្ញាដល់ពួកគាត់ហើយប្រទានកម្លាំងសុខភាពល្អសូមជំរុញនិងលើកទឹកចិត្តនឹងបណ្ដាលយើងខ្ញុំបានមានដួងនឹងយល់អំពីការបង្រៀនហើយសូមឲ្យយើងខ្ញុំបានទទួលបង្រៀននេះដើម្បីយើងខ្ញុំអាចធ្វើសរសេរជាប្រយោជន៍សម្រាប់ក្រុមជំនុំសម្រាប់អ្នកចំនួនក្រោយដែលពួកគាត់នឹងទទួលការទទួលបាននៅចំណេះដឹងហើយសូមឲ្យយើងខ្ញុំបានទទួលនៅកម្លាំងមកពីព្រះអង្គអាចធ្វើការទាំងនោះបានដោយព្រះគុណរបស់ព្រះអង្គកូនអធិដ្ឋានក្នុងនាមព្រះយេស៊ូវគ្រីស្ទអាមែន
Amen. Well,
Amen.
Share our speaker. So he will come in, I guess, later. But we decided to add more speakers to our meeting. How many of you watched Bill Privet's lecture? Did anybody watch Bill Privet's lecture?
I watched.
Nobody watched?
Yes, I watched.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, he did an excellent job today sharing about his lecture. So let's see if start with Paksu. Well, his name is Vachna. Is that how you read it, Vachna?
Yeah. Vachna.
Vachna. Okay. So he has his own YouTube TV, and he put a lot of CPTI lectures there as well. I watched his writing book review in English, so it was good. And what I want him to really talk about today is his relationship with missionary Joe, a good friend of mine. And so after he planted church 15 years, give it to Vachna. So now Vachna is a senior pastor. And I don't know how the relationship is and what the difficulties they had. So I really want him to respond to the question that raised by Noptola. And that's the question that Dr. Bill Privet responded as well. I think it's a very important question. And so from lecture 19 and 20 as well, and we try to respond to that. So once he comes, we're gonna thank him later, but as you saw lecture 18, Professor Bill Privet really is an incredibly smart man. It's one of those brilliant scholars that I met. He was my supervisor at Oxford. So he teaches there. He taught there for a long time. 10 years he taught at Oxford Center for Mission Studies. And this is when he was in Cambodia, when he was a young man. This is 1991. I don't know how old you guys were at 1990, but he was already in Cambodia. He at one point spoke quite good Khmer. So he speaks very good Khmer, and he speaks fluent Thai. He speaks some, English, of course, and some Romanian. So very, very brilliant man. And he wrote this book, Child, Church, and Compassion. His major study was on children, psychology and children, helping the little children. I think at one point he had something like 1,000 orphans that he was helping in Cambodia. He's the one who bought the whole land at, where ALG, Cambodia Bible Institute, CBI, the whole land at Turkok, where Turkok was nothing. And he said that he just picked it up, and now it's in the center of Phnom Penh. So he goes 1990. He has his own research website that he does a lot of research and things like that. So obviously I have a tremendous respect for him. And so I'm glad that he spoke. So some of you who did not watch his lecture already. So today we're only doing first part of the lecture break, and then we're not coming back. You're gonna watch his lecture. So let's briefly talk about our paper, because some of you still haven't turned in my first class, research methodology paper yet. And so I am very nice guy, but when it comes to that, I am very, very strict. So every week that you are not passing in, then you get one lower grade. So you may end up getting D plus with being a great paper. But because you put in 3 weeks late, then it's A, B, C, D. So you'll get D. So please turn it in. And I'm smiling and telling you now, but I'm very strict with that. So please turn that in. Of course, the lecture note and then 10-page paper, everything's due. And you need to ask the questions. 10-page paper on this class would be, does God-banner relationship exist in CPTI church plan? Don't talk about Methodists. Don't talk about Baptists. I don't care about Baptists. I care about CPTI church plans and the church plant that you experience. Is there a God-banner relationship? If so, prove it. How do you know, right? Or is Dongap church plan possible in CPTI? So I should actually write there. Is Dongap, meaning the partner, true partnership church, is it possible? Is true partnership church plan possible in CPTI? So that's my second question. So one question or the other, you need to answer me and write 10-page paper on it. Okay, it'll be very simple. Now, as I was actually, some of you posted your paper on the Cat Talk, I realized, wow, wait a minute, and I need to correct this, because before you turn in your paper to me, I want to make sure that this is corrected. So what's wrong with this? What's missing here? Let me show you again. So when you do footnote like this, or the endnote, what's missing here? What's missing? So you have to, what's missing is you forgot to put access date right there, okay? If you do not put access date in academic world, it will never pass. You throw out, someone spent 5 years, PhD, and did not put access date, okay? He did not put access date, and entire PhD was thrown out. 5 years of work, zero. Okay, this is very, very important, guys. I know it's just a paper. Oh, it's just 10-page paper. No, if you don't practice that now, whatever paper you write in English will never be accepted, because it's just a website name. Well, how do you know that the information that you have is still there? So without the access date, it's nothing. So make sure that you put access date, like on the date that you access. You know what access means, right? On the date I found that article. So that's very important. Another example, right here. Why is this in blue, right? Well, because you did not disconnect the web link. You just cut and paste, okay? This one also, you get automatic F in academic world. That means you just cut and paste the web page, and you did not even bother to go into the Microsoft Word, or while you're typing, you need to disengage the link. You cannot put the link together, because every time you put the link together, you come in different color, right? Okay, so that's one. Very important that you don't be negligent or be lazy. Cannot be lazy when you write academic paper. You need to make sure when that pops in blue, that means when you click it, you're going to go to the website. That's not allowed in academic paper. Another one. What is wrong with this one? You use Wikipedia as a source. In academic world, you can never use Wikipedia as a reference. It's just not accepted. Okay, because why is not accepted? Because Wikipedia is not a scholarly resource. Okay, because I can post something in Wikipedia today. Okay, I could post in my Wikipedia today as Professor Robert O, and then write, he's the greatest professor who ever lived in the world. He's the smartest man on earth, or whatever. I could put my own Wikipedia entry today. So when you use Wikipedia, then it's not credible. Okay, so make sure. Well, I think our professor now jumped in.
Professor,
Yeah.
beside Wikipedia, can we use encyclopedia? No?
But encyclopedia, you also need to quote where the encyclopedia is from. So when you go to Wikipedia, for example, like for example, encyclopedia, don't quote Wikipedia encyclopedia entry. Go back to the encyclopedia and then quote that. So Wikipedia always has on the bottom, the footnote, its own source. So quote that instead of the Wikipedia. That's one of the tricks. So I'll teach that probably tomorrow. But let's invite, welcome Professor. Where are you? We need to go look. We need to look for him. Speak to us.
ជំរាបសួរគ្រូទាំងអស់គ្នា
Okay.
សួរលោកគ្រូ
បាទជំរាបសួរខ្ញុំជឿថាលោកគ្រូធ្លាប់ឃើញខ្ញុំហើយពិសេសចិត្តបើថាមកមុខខ្ញុំអត់ទៅហូបបាយខ្ញុំទៅហូបបាយហើយបន្តិចឥឡូវនៅអ្នកលឿងនៅផ្ទះព្រោះអត់អាចចេញពីណាបានទេព្រោះអ្នកលឿងលើតំបន់ក្តៅរបស់កូវីដអញ្ចឹងពិបាក Well, so Dr. Robert, who was speaking Khmer, right?
Oh no, you're speaking English today.
Well,
the reason is because I have to listen and I have to make sure that I could convey the message. But let me introduce you.
Yeah, I know.
So he definitely has. He's been around. Everybody knows him. He has a YouTube channel like this. I was listening to him, and so I think it's a great resource. I think we need to build it up. I think CPTI has to build CPTI lecture like this, so everybody could kind of go in and get all the lectures done. What I really want to know is on this question, on the question of power transfer. Remember, we just learned the whole thing about power transfer yesterday from Professor Chun from Korea. He wrote this book and he did a power transfer. And so I want you to respond to this question that Noptola wrote. If you think that you could, because if you do in complete Khmer, I'm sorry, because I wouldn't understand, so I don't know how to follow up or disagree or agree with you. So what you could do is present your case and then in English, and then when people ask a question, I guess you could respond in Khmer. Let me see if I could bring you up and just you only, so that okay. Let's see. I don't know how to. Okay, so you know what? Let's bring this. Okay, here we go. So go ahead. Go for it. Talk to us.
Okay. Well, so we're talking about the power transfer, and so the case was raised like two cases. Actually, just one, but then it has with the two conditions. One saying if a Cambodian made something that this doesn't look promising, and then the missionary would say because of the Cambodian doesn't want to be independent. Then, if that the error in the missionary side, and then we have nothing to talk to them. So the question saying, should we go and ask them to teach us how to be independent, or should we go our own way and look for another way of ministry without rely on their support? no matter of from our support, but let's say from the previous missionaries. So what to do? It comes to my case, particularly in my church. Started with the first or second years when I was trained as a leader. My missionary Joe has already mentioned that he will be leaving someday, and the Cambodian leaders or the Cambodian pastor will be taking care of the church after he will leave. So almost all of us had prepared for that, and that's what is happening in my church. So we prepared that, and he has taught us how to respond to God in giving. So we learn how to give tithe, we learn how to give offering, and in order to support our own ministry. And then he told us that there will be someday he will no longer support anything, and he will be only just be outside. So he walked along our side, as I remember, it's starting like 2015. So he didn't give any support, even a single $. So nothing from the missionary side. But actually we have run our own even before that. But at least he himself did not get any more offering. So he saved his offering for other projects. That's what we will observe. And after some years, so the church was handed over. So is happening in church. And well, we'll go back. I don't think that the Khmer culture doesn't want to be independent. I think we do want to be independent. We can see in the history where we fight against the French colonize. That was why we wanted to be independent. But I'm not sure if the missionary themselves has crippled us or did not really give us a chance to walk. And that's why we always need them when we want to go somewhere or want to do something. And that's why it become a part of our life that we need them. And since they're already here, why we had to do our own, right? So, but that is not in the culture. It's not in our own way that we don't want to be independent. We do want to be independent. And just how do we be independent? Then what if the error came from the missionary? What should we do? And I have met a lot of people complaining about missionaries. The pastoring in my province, we met them, have a conflict, how to communicate with let's say supporter. And many of them would just like, they want to receive support, but then they receive the burden rather than support. They want to receive something that can strengthen them, but then actually something that it should come to help them, but it actually is not help at all. It just make them weaker. And without those support, they cannot walk anymore. And so what should we do? So I think it's in practical way. I don't want to put my church as an example, but at least we can see in a very practical ways it's happening in my church. So I raised this case up. I said, if we don't want to debt, then we stop borrowing. If we want to eat something good, then start eating something bad today. And or Pisa Khmer have a word saying, "Personที่យើងចង់ឈប់ហូបអំបិលយើងត្រូវតែចាប់ផ្ដើមហូបអំបិលពីឥឡូវទៅព្រោះដល់ពេលមួយយើងអាចឈប់ហូបអំបិលដែរ because we are afraid of the poor and we don't want to be poor, and so we just wanna find out a way that try to prevent us not to be poor. But then I said, no, we should stop being poor from now. And then by being poor, we learn from that, and we will no longer poor at the end, or at least the next generation. It might not happen in my generation, but then I could do something, and then the next generation will no longer be like my situation. And that's a commitment. So when my wife and I came to serve in Netling Church, my wife was in Phnom Penh, and she got a good salary, as I know, way better than mine, way better than now. And then she gave up the job and then came with me in the province. And their parents got angry But then I talked to my wife. If we want to be rich, or we want to be living in a good, let's say not a high standard, but at least a good life. At least we can survive. Let's say if we want to survive, let's our church be that first, because they're the one who support us. So if they eat salt, that's what I told my wife. We will eat salt. If they eat dry fish, we will eat dry fish. Okay, that's what we will do. So make our church rich first before we become rich. That's what I told my wife. And it really struggled, by saying that, by writing down is really easy. But then when we go through it, and it's really a pain, and that's a commitment. So I really pray that God keep my commitment. I keep reminders to my family, to my wife, that we have made a commitment that, we will be suffer for sometimes, but let for the time that we suffer and we help our church to grow, and then they will support us. And we might not suffer in terms of financial needs, at least. With the other suffering that we could not avoid, it will come in, but at least for financial suffering. And that's a commitment. I did try that, because I have lots of friends who have lots of resources and connection came to me and then launched me the project, asked me to participate at the project that I can earn more income, or have their own projects so that I can have an extra salary for the project. I said, no, I don't want to do that. So I just want to help my church to grow first. And then I'll be lacking for some times. But then, lots of things has happened, and God has returned whatever had given up even more. And we have seen God's faithfulness. And that's why I could say it let's say I can tell anybody who has conflict or problem with getting support from outside. My advice would just try to do our own first. And we do need those support. I'm not saying support is bad, but then there are some support that doesn't help us to grow, but then that support will just cripple us and make us not walking anymore. So that's why when we talk about partnership, we still do the partnership. We're not let's say, we're not being hired by others. We're not being labeled for others. But then we have the same goal with the one who want to work with us, even though we work in different different job and in different way. But then we achieve the same goal, and that's a partnership. But if we do the same thing, but then achieve different goal, I'm not saying that's a partnership, because everyone will take their own interest, and there will be a conflict interest someday, and you will be fight, and you will be broke up. But then we work for the same goal with different activity, and that's a partnership, and that's what we want to do. Perhaps we do our own local, they send something to help us, or they send anything, even human resources, even material resources. We want those to achieve the same goal. And that's what I call partnership. But mostly that I've seen in my province, they do the same thing for different goal. So the one who support have their own goal, and the local church has different goal, but then they do the same thing. And there will be time they had conflicts because they didn't achieve their own. so they fight. And that, I think that's the key, that they fight. When talking about the pastors, was a local leaders, and then missionaries who came and helped. We need to see if we are in the same goal for, let's say, for the kingdom of God in Cambodia. Or they have their own goal, but we have our own goal, but then we work in the same church, the same activity. I think where we fight sometime. So should we go to the missionary and ask them to teach us how to work independently? We do have to do it, and I advise we should start doing that. And being independent, it's really go through a process of pain. We have to be ready for that. We cannot be independence without going through pain. I believe so. We will have to be ready for that, at least for a period of time before we go really independent. Because as I look on my own, I start working in the church with a salary of $40 and $40. If you buy a breakfast in Cambodia, it would cost 3,000 reals. It's almost $1. And I rode a bicycle, and the church was not too far from my home. So, so I eat dinner at my house. So I save one meal. Sometimes I eat lunch at church, so I have to use the money, or sometimes I go back home for lunch. But usually for breakfast, I use the $40. So start with that. And then after I became full-time pastor, the $40 was not a full, it was a full-time, but it was what we call it, internship pastor. I graduated from the college already and came back to the church to serve for $40 for a year. And to the year 2, I got $80. And it's an amazing, you cannot find any other institution, let's say company, that will increase your salary by 100%. Never, but my church does it. So from $40 to $80. And that I said, okay, I might have lunch now for at church. And then I got $80. And then $80 after I graduate Master of Divinity from the Philippines. And then a missionary told the church that Vachna could find out a job, would earn $500 a month easily with his credential. But then now God has called him to the church, and the church can only support him for $80 a month. And we promised him that we will have this for at least 1 year without any problem for $80. The salary will not going down at least 1 year. So yeah, and my wife came. So the church has committed, and they gave me more. So I went from $80 to $100. So another 20% is also a big amount when the salary jump from a certain, and then it's multiplied by 20%. That's a very big amount compared to other company. So yeah, it's still good. And then my wife also have salary because she works at a kindergarten. We have that project, but that was not that big. So she got 100, I got 120, we have 220. It seems fair for us, for only 2 people living in the province, without letting our parent-in-law knows that how much salary we earn. But then we could survive, and I learned a lot from that. That's, when I never pray for luck, never at all, because I knew that the Lord will support me. So there was some time we open a door, we see the fish, a living fish. Our church member would just drop it and call us, I gave you fish. He said, no, you don't have, no, it's at your front door. When I open the door, the fish is there. So we made us a food. Sometimes they give us rice, and they keep supporting us for 1 year, as I remember, after we got married. Beside the salary, the $220, including with my wife. So sometimes we got rice, sometimes we got food, sometimes we got noodles or whatever they just gave us. And then it came to year 2. That was amazing that the church could increase my salary more. I say salary, yeah. But then let's say allowance is better than the salary. So they gave me allowance more than that. And then the kindergartens also grow, and my wife could also have more. So we had enough actually, and we still have enough. And then we have one child, 1 son, and then now we have 2 children. We still have enough. And after serving for some years, I could sum up with a word, say, we don't have enough salary, but then we lack of nothing. And that's an amazing work we do. And we grow independently with the financial, with our governor. It means we do our administration for our own church, and we go to the we call it propagation. We have our own daughter church. So we try to be self-support and then self-independent from those areas. And we still have connection with missionaries. He came when I invited him to, and then he came, he speaks, and he just felt like he came to his hometown. And amazingly, when he came, we gave him more. We want to give them gas actually, but they said, no, you don't have to do that. But then, so we give them fruit, we give them rice, we give them some food, and missionary came with an empty car, went back with the fulls of stuff from a church to them. So they use those and then go back home. And just feel like, we become like really partner. We're not seeing as a boss and a worker or a labor or employee or employer. We're not seeing ourselves this way. So it's a matter of how do we see ourselves? If we see ourselves as a labor, as an employee, then we'll be employed. But since the beginning, the missionary never treat us as that worker, and we never see them as our boss as well. And that's how we do. Yeah. If anything that I'm not, addressing the question or the case, then we can make some more clarification.
So that was wonderful sharing. Thank you for sharing that. I think everybody needed to hear that. Now I have a question. In your understanding, because your church is exceptional. I don't think it's common to find church like you. You're not a normal leader. You're an exceptional leader. So do you find in your circle of friends or that you heard about walk the similar path as your church, who's already independent and all that? Did you find any of these kind of examples?
I have some connection with other pastors in my program. So I have seen two churches done. Let's say I share that to them, and I want to be the same. So two churches have work the same way. So one pastor quite a little bit far from my place, and that place is even more rural than mine. But my place is not very, very remote. That the other pastor is even more than mine, and he did the same. He agreed with what is happening to other churches and to other local leaders, that they have a conflict. So he shared to me that missionary wants to give them more, to give him more. He said no, he had enough. Keep those amount to give to others who are lacking. So he still keep his. And then for a few years ago, he stopped receiving from the missionary. He was a CPTI not graduate. He was student and he graduated just because he was busy and he just stopped his study. And then I met him. That's what he shared. So he has because he's in a remote place. The land is cheaper, so he has the land is belong to the church. But then the church building is small, so they have free land for growing rice. So he growing rice, raising chicken, use those for him to make a living. And then he announced to the church that he will stop receiving salary. If I'm not mistaken, it might be $100 from missionary. And he told his church that he will start with the church, starting with the amount of half of that. So I think only took $50 from a church, and the rest he would just respond for himself. And right now, the church gave him $80-something already. And then he did as he predicted, it would just go higher than $100 that he had given up. And then the church start giving tithe, knowing how to give offering. Otherwise, pastor will not be survive. But before the church, we just giving tithe, giving offering, we just give what they want and not God wants. And then the other church, come with me. I saw it's coming. And then another church in close by to my church, the pastor with 2 kids is the same to me. And that church has also very good example. So I'm not sure if you have heard about Pastor Yang, missionary Yang. You went to his church, right? The John Baptist church. Yeah, they do the same. They do the same. So the pastor gets salary from the church, and the church have to support them. And the pastor work nothing, has no more other incomes. And they really very be transparency with the church, how the pastor would earn his income. So I have seen 2 churches already, and they're really over full of joy because they see that how they can survive their own, and they also can see the possibility for other churches, even more than that. When my church has less than 30 people joining worship service regularly, around 30 the most. But then amazingly could receive a offering each month would be more than $700. So 30 people with old and some people unemployed, they could raise about $700 a month. So that's amazing. And it must be very faithful to the tithe. You know, that was people could even give tithe like, and the tithe they give like $300. So no one would give offering $300. You can't find it in a Buddhist. It's only happened in the church.
Do you think you mentioned tithing? And remember, you and I did a local pastors meeting, and I taught on my book Tithing. So how's that connected? You think it has a direct connection of Christian learning how to tithe has direct connection to not dependent on missionaries?
I think it's very strong practice for the church because it's the only most accurate way that we receive blessing from giving tithe, because it comes with a promise when we give in tithe. And when we give tithe, let's say we have money, we have fulfill our financial needs, and you can see mostly the church would depends on missionary from outside. They only look for money. That's the first thing they look for, because they are really weak in supporting their expenses. We're talking about teaching people. I don't think local pastor could not do that. We can do it. And talking about helping or doing ministry without a ministry, we can do it. But then what we don't have, or perhaps we don't have the expense, because we still have that lacking or need in terms of financial. So how do we meet the financial needs in a ministry? Or perhaps the missionary has better connection than us, and then people want to give to this. And you know, that's one of the very big stream that the church look for support. We need what?
Yeah, thank you. Because actually we only have now about 10 minutes. I want to make sure that you address these issues. Thank you for these wonderful testimonies. It's more than teaching. I think it's really testimony, comes from your heart, and it's not something that you practiced. But what was your relationship with missionary Joe? Starting from first time you saw Joe, was there a progress, and what was the relationship dynamic between you and him at the beginning and toward the end? Because I showed the picture in the later part when you were happy together. And I mean, missionary Joe is a good friend of mine, but I'm sure he played a different role at different stage of your mentoring. As he was mentoring you, kind of tell us about your relationship with him and how he was different from beginning and toward the middle and then at the end.
Like for the beginning, I saw myself as a children. I learned from him. He nurtured me, and even up to the time that I was doing my internship in the church. But I never see him as a boss. But then I saw him like, this is my father, spiritual father. This is my one of the person who never want something bad happen to me. So the matter of trust, there was a very strong trust between me and him. So if I want to do something, I could tell myself, if missionaries say no, I will have to reconsider the thing that I will do, because I would really trust him that he will never want something bad to happen to me. So that kind of commitment and the trust really built in my life, that it takes time to do it. And so I start with the children, knowing nothing about missionary works, about the ministry. I always saw him as a rich man, and he has a salary like thousands of dollars, and he just shared a little bit to me. That was the very first beginning, starting. And then after I knew that ministry and understood how ministry works and needs, and then I see myself as a partner working together. Then he still has very something that's special in my life, but he still has very, let's say, influence to me. Let's say not a boss, but then yeah, he could tell me to do something. Yeah. Only after I graduate from ATS, that's my Bible school, and then I really understood what missionary is and how they work is, and what is my role in the church and what I should do, and then the let's say the communication is the same, but then the relationship in terms of father and son is different. And then we become more on the brothers, working together. We discuss things related to the church. We discuss things related to life, rather than before he was only concerned if I am working faithfully to God. But then he is just saying if I am working in the right way, rather than just if I'm being faithful or not. And then, yeah, so the relationship has grown different, and it really changed. And then when we passed Baton, where I got my commission and my commissioning service. So after that year, the relationship really changed. And I really see myself as one who walking beside him, walking together with him, rather than just ask help from him. So that's how we see the relationship it change. And I really see, when the children grow strong or not, it really happens. It's really because of the father, because the parents, how the parent would nurture them. If this children could do something independently, perhaps the parent would give a chance to the kids. That's why the kid could do something, could have their own decision. I think it's just the same thing, but how we raise our children and how we raise the leaders in the church. It's really happened this way. Missionary Joe would always have me do something wrong. And then he asked me, what do I feel with the something wrong? He knew that it was wrong. He could stop me, but he didn't. He just let me do something wrong. And that's what I like from him. He just let me fall, But actually he knew that he could stop me. And he could do better than me. Something that he could do only an hour, he asked to do for a month. And he let me do it for a month. Such pain you can't find in any other place. Something that they can do for an hour, but I have to do it for a month. And he just said, okay, watch me do something wrong. But it did stop me something when it's really, the consequences were really bad. It stopped me. But usually he let me learn from the mistakes. That's what I've learned. And I have missionaries also Korean. So she came to me after getting married, we talk, and no, my missionary is back at my church. Acts different from Gujo is something different. It's different. He would just let you do this, and you make something wrong. He would just see this is wrong, but he just let me do it. But she said her missionary would not do that. You make something wrong, we just no, you don't do this. You stop right away. You do that, and then you never learn from mistake. Everything was just on a missionary's shoulder. And then, yeah, that's how I learned.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, we only have a few minutes to wrap up. I wish we had more time so you guys could ask questions, but we do want to keep in time. When I hear you, my next time I see you, Professor, I'm gonna give you my book because what you just share is in exact steps that I'm talking about. That how good missionary should always become a father, and then become a sponsor, and then become a partner. So it seems like missionary Joe really walked those paths with you, and launched you. And then now you are on your own, doing great work, and teaching at CPTI, teaching and you're independent, so you don't have to listen to anybody in a sense that because you are now serving God and we're going the same goal. So I really think Professor Bill Privet also spoke from more of the theoretical framework. Now you're, as a Kamai, live this Dongap, and I call it Dongap ministry or Dongap church plant, because patron client is Kap and Ul, and Dongap means partner. So in Korean, Dongap means partner. So I want Korean missionary to start having Dongap relationship and plant a church, then becomes financially independent. And so what you just share is exactly, I wish that every Cambodia church could mimic, and the Korean missionary will mimic what missionary Joe has done, and Cambodia pastor will mimic what you've done, because you made a sacrifice. You said you could get 500, but you only received $80. And Khmer people, the people realize that you're a leader and start supporting. And then, oh wow, this is a classic example of how Tonga mission work should be established. So I'm so thankful, for you and what you share. I think it would be great if would you pray in Khmer and bless the
Okay.
so
Yeah.
they could be like you someday. Pray for us.
បាទអរគុណច្រើនអរគុណសម្រាប់ឱកាសនេះសូមលោកគ្រូទាំងអស់គ្នាបានអធិដ្ឋានជាមួយខ្ញុំព្រះបិតាជាព្រះដែលយើងខ្ញុំសូមអរគុណទ្រង់ដែលទ្រង់បានត្រាស់ហៅយើងខ្ញុំគឺជាអ្នកបម្រើដើម្បីនឹងមានឱកាសបម្រើដំណឹងល្អនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាហើយយើងជឿថាដែលយើងដើរមកដល់ថ្ងៃនេះបានឆ្លងកាត់នឹងបទពិសោធន៍គ្រប់ទាំងសេចក្តីស្មោះត្រង់របស់ព្រះអង្គព្រោះហើយដែលយើងខ្ញុំមានគ្រូមានអ្នកណែនាំខាងវិញ្ញាណជាបេសកជនដូចជាខ្មែរក៏ដោយតែយើងក៏សូមអរគុណទ្រង់ដែលយើងខ្ញុំអាចនឹងដើរជាមួយគ្នារៀនជាមួយគ្នាសូមព្រះអង្គបានជួយដល់លោកគ្រូទាំងអស់គ្នាដែលកំពុងតែនៅក្នុងថ្នាក់នេះហើយជាអនាគតអ្នកដឹកនាំកម្ពុជានៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាសូមទ្រង់បានជួយឲ្យពួកគាត់រួមទាំងទូបង្គំយើងខ្ញុំទាំងអស់គ្នាអាចតែបន្តស្មោះត្រង់ហើយអាចនឹងដើរជាមួយនឹងគ្នាដើម្បីជាប្រយោជន៍យ៉ាងដំណឹងល្អនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជាសូមអត់ទោសដល់យើងខ្ញុំបើសិនជាយើងខ្ញុំបានធ្វើខុសឬក៏ធ្វើកន្លែងណាមួយដែលមិនគប់ទៅត្រង់សូមកែច្នៃយើងខ្ញុំឲ្យខ្លាយទៅជាអ្នកបម្រើដ៏ស្មោះត្រង់សម្រាប់នឹងបម្រើនឹងល្អក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាផងដែរហើយក៏សូមជួយឲ្យយើងខ្ញុំអាចមានទឹកចិត្តមានការតាំងចិត្តនៅក្នុងការដែលយើងខ្ញុំបម្រើហើយគ្រប់ទាំងការតាំងចិត្តទាំងអស់នោះសូមឲ្យបន្តនៅឆេះឈួរនៅក្តៅនៅក្នុងជីវិតរបស់យើងខ្ញុំដើម្បីឲ្យយើងខ្ញុំបានដើរដល់ស្មោះត្រង់រហូតដល់ទីបញ្ចប់ផងដែរហើយយើងអរគុណសម្រាប់Dr. ដែលគាត់បានមានឱកាសចែកចាយហើយនឹងបង្រៀនលោកគ្រូទាំងអស់គ្នាទាំងព្រមទាំងទូបង្គំដែរសូមប្រទានកម្លាំងដល់គាត់ទាំងអស់គ្នាហើយយើងអរគុណព្រះអង្គក្នុងព្រះនាមព្រះយេស៊ូវគ្រីស្ទអាមែន
Amen. Thank you, sir. I hope
អរគុណច្រើន
if you're ever in Phnom Penh downtown, look me up. I'll get you a nice meal. Okay.
អរគុណច្រើនលោកគ្រូថ្ងៃណាបានទៅសាលាហូបកាហ្វេជាមួយទៀតបាទព្រោះខ្ញុំដឹងលោកគ្រូចិត្តចូលចិត្តកាហ្វេបាទហើយខ្ញុំអ្នកចូលចិត្តមួយរូបដែរបាទចាំជុំគ្នាបាទអរគុណច្រើនលោកគ្រូបាទជំរាបលាសូមតែពី
Bye.
Bye.